Painting skies in watercolor can be a little tricky. We're thinking about mixing and watercolor timing, and we're trying to avoid creating green and other colors that we don't want. So today I'm going to walk you through step by step how I approach painting skies. I'm going to talk to you about watercolor timing, about color mixing, and show you how I paint skies each step along the way. Something important to remember, I'm not going to be able to copy this sky exactly as is because I'm painting wet into wet on my paper, and there's a lot of variables. How wet the paper is, how much water I'm using on my brush, and I'm mixing on the fly. There's a little bit of natural variability and spontaneity that happens on the paper. What I'm going to do is wet down the back of my paper and the front. By wetting down both sides, the paper will stay damp longer and I can have more time to work wet into wet. I want the main area of interest in the sky to be right around here. And what I'm going to do first is lay in the light, warm tone for the sky and then add the blue and some of the other darker values. So I'm going to start out with something really nice, vibrant, and warm. I'm going to use a touch of raw sienna and Quinacridone Gold. That's a very vibrant pigment that really glows, and sunsets are one of the main subjects that I would use this pigment for. So I'm going to put a touch of that yellow right around here. This is where the brightest part of my sky is going to be. And I'm going to add some some cadmium orange into the mix. A little bit of orange. And now I'm going to add some rose madder permanent into the mix. And this rose madder permanent is very helpful to use around yellow colors to help our sky from turning too green, because we know that blue and yellow mixed together make green. This rose madder permanent is a nice buffer between those two pigments. Okay, so this is the lightest part of the sky. I know that everywhere else I paint around here can be darker. I'll take some more of that raw sienna, some more of these warm colors, and this right here is kind of where the light is going to be. But again, it's fun to just play and paint spontaneously and just kind of go with it and see what happens. Say more rose madder permanent. Letting those just mix on the paper. Okay, I'll just bring that down to the bottom. And I'm not doing a complete painting, so there's nothing on the ground under here. We're just going to do the sky today, and I'm taking away the white of the paper down there. A little more rose madder permanent up here. And this is going to be my transition between the warm colors and the cool colors. So I'm going to rinse my brush off, and I'm going to get some cerulean. A little bit of Cobalt Blue and cerulean. Alright, and I'm gonna... See, I didn't cover the whole blue where I want the blue of the sky with those warm colors. I'm just letting them meet on the paper here. Alright, so that's the cool part of our sky. I'm going to take some cerulean, some rose madder permanent, and we have that kind of purpley color that we'll start to transition into down here. We are negatively painting around our light, so we want to remember that. Let's use some of the cerulean, and let's use some lavender. I like lavender. Some people don't have that color, but use some Ultramarine Blue and a little bit of rose madder permanent. Something like that will get you close to a lavender. And now I'm gonna put a little more rose madder permanent in here. And as this color goes down here, we're just mixing on the paper. And see how lovely it is when we get a little bit of value, how the light becomes more apparent the stronger that we paint. All right, so we're building up that strength. And another important thing to remember is that while we are painting wet into wet, we're painting with a lot of water on our brush. There's a lot of drying that's going to happen and a lot of fading that's going to happen. So we want to be sure and compensate for that fading and paint a little darker. Push those values, especially when you're painting wet into wet. Take this brush, medium brush, just a little calligraphy brush. I'm going to get some more cadmium orange. And let's see what that looks like with some lavender. Mix it in with some of this. Just add a little more value to that. Rinse that off. Now I'm going to go back to my big brush, and we need some thicker pigment here. More lavender, use some Cobalt Blue, some neutral tint. This is for the darker clouds, thicker pigment. I don't want to have to keep going over this, so I'm going to try to get it right the first time. So this is the darker part of the clouds in front of the light. I don't want to do every single brush stroke the same way and create a pattern and look repetitive. So I try to mix up my brush strokes, turn my brush, make a small mark and a big mark. I'm going to add a few of those clouds over here. And something that's fun is that it's going to look different every time you paint it. Big, bold brush marks is what I'm going for. And now I'm going to bring some of this strength down into the lower half of this painting. And again, I'm not painting the ground, and it's just an abstract sky, but it's fun to just play around and mix it up. And it's interesting how it feels different. Every time you put a new mark on, it kind of feels a little bit different. Okay, I'm going to take this medium calligraphy brush one more time. Lavender, neutral tint. And here's a look at the sky once it has dried. If you can get used to painting wet and wet, practicing your timing, even if you have just a few minutes to work out a quick sky, getting that practice and that repetition will make a big difference in your work. Have you ever been really excited about a painting and you get all set up, you find that right reference that you're excited about, and then it's time to go and you feel lost? You just are having a hard time finding consistency. Some of your paintings turn out, some of your paintings don't turn out, and you're not really sure why. Well, I have a free resource that I want to give to you today that can help with these problems. My 5 steps to plan a successful watercolor painting. I walk you through the crucial planning phase of your painting that will help you understand what you're going to paint first, second, and third. The planning is really so important, especially in watercolor. This medium is harder to correct. It's so immediate. So having that plan is very important. I send you a PDF that you can download. And the great thing about this is you can have it on your phone, you could print it out, and you can take a look at these crucial planning steps before you start each painting to ensure that you're thinking through these important things as you get started. You can download this right now before you start your next painting. All you have to do is follow this link here and download my 5-step guide to planning a successful watercolor painting.